4th, we have our first Friday lunch program of the year. We have lunches every Friday. Usually they're at a local church, but this year it's at Greenwood because we decided we'd like to give Greenwood some support because their numbers are down. So we're going to have our Friday lunch at Greenwood on April 4th. The topic is Greene County's Masons. And Keith Voss is going to talk about the Freemasons in Greene County and nationally. On April 5th, which is a Saturday, we have a program celebrating National Poetry Month. And we do that every year with the Greene County Community Players. Usually it's on Sunday, but the Greene County Community Players have a matinee on that Sunday. So this year we've changed the date. We originally publicized that it was going to be on April 6th, but it's now going to be on April 5th at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. And those are the only upcoming programs we have. I think we may have an exciting program at the end of April, but we'll see how that plays out. So it's on your calendar, so if you want to look, you can look. I am going to now introduce, we are very lucky to have the Friends of Greene County Parks is sponsoring Dr. Thomas Rosburg here today, and Chris Henning is going from the Friends of the Greene County Parks Organization is going to introduce him.
Thanks, Margaret. It's so fun to see so many of you in the audience that I know for so many other things. Tell me, with a show of hands, how many of you have been to Tipton Prairie? Oh, good, good. I moved back from, I graduated high school here. I moved back in '92. I didn't even know there was a Tipton Prairie in Greene County until I met Dr. Rosburg, Tom Rosburg, he presented at one of the Raccoon River Valley Watershed Association meetings. And I was amazed to find that there was such a beautiful piece of land only 4 miles from my house and only 4.5 miles from where I grew up. It just amazed me. His work with the Raccoon River Watershed, his work at Drake is stellar, and the Tipton Prairie, if you haven't been there, when it gets warm, we're going to do a prairie walk out there again, and probably have 2 or 3 events. So I don't know what to say except that I've known Tom Rosburg since 2008 when I first heard him speak, and he's been just wonderful with the research and so forth that he's done at Tipton Prairie and at prairies throughout Iowa, and I'll bet further abroad even than that. Tom?
Thank you,
Margaret.
Thanks for the invitation, Margaret, to come visit all of you, and this is a fantastic turnout. I'm really pleased and thankful that you took time on a Sunday, no less, afternoon, on the second day of spring, no less, and still on the second round now of the NCAA. Well, there's all kinds of things that we're competing up, I think, for your time here. But it's really, really amazing to me because you must have at least some interest or curiosity in prairie, right? I'm guessing, if you decided to come and take a look at what I'm going to talk about. And it is true that you have a prairie remnant in Greene County that is one of the best in the entire state. And Chris, I don't know if you realize this, but there are very, very few people who live within 4 miles of a prairie remnant. As you probably know, prairie remnants are few and far between, so I don't live within 4 miles of one, certainly, so that's really nice. And you can, of course, open to the public. You can go down there and appreciate it and enjoy it anytime you want. And Greene County, of course, has been doing a great job of taking care of it. Oh, what happened here? Went to sleep? Just when we were going to start, what's going on?
Oh, maybe.
Well, I got it on my screen here, but
Maybe it's the projector, Tom. Let's see, did that
Oh, the projector?
go out?
Yeah, the projector's not on. That's the problem. It is.
Extension cord maybe
Yeah, maybe the cord was hit.
pulled apart.
Let's hit this.
No, on the floor.
Oh, right here. There, I think that might have been it.
Now you got, it'll take a second.
Yeah, it'll take just a minute.
So we,
Is that plugged in then? Good.
Yeah, the light's on the strip.
It's got power, it's just in the off mode, because I see the red button.
Or, well,
so while this is coming up, this is real informal. You can ask questions anytime. There'll be time to answer questions too. I left home kind of quickly to get here in good time, and so I didn't actually get my hearing aids put in. So if you ask a question, I may have to cock my head or come over closer to you to hear what you're saying. Well, the title of this program, again, what every Iowan should understand about Iowa's Prairie Heritage, it's meant to be an introduction to Iowa Prairie, of course, and to try to develop, really good appreciation and a sense of, curiosity, further curiosity, to again talk to you about prairies and why I love prairies as much as I do. I've been studying them for over 40 years, of course, and I learn something every time I spend time on a prairie. It's meant to kind of address sort of 10, you might say, I sometimes call them prairieisms, but just kind of 10 important sort of facts or interesting things about Iowa's prairie. Okay, here we go. This is a prairie up in Emmett County called Emmett County Prairie. All right, so, whoop. That's the pointer. That should be the bed. Oh, there we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, so the first one is, and this is something you really should be proud of, Iowa is right in the center of the tallgrass prairie ecosystem. Tallgrass prairie ecosystem. This is a shirt I designed back when I was at Iowa State back in 1993, in the heart of the tallgrass prairie. And this map over here shows all of the different kinds of grassland that are present in North America for the most part. And again, tallgrass prairie right here, this green area right here, pretty much corresponds to this area right here. And of course, if you keep driving west towards Colorado or the Rocky Mountains from Iowa, you will go through other kinds of prairie on your way out to Colorado. The mixed grass or midgrass prairie, the short grass prairie. This whole area here is known as the Central North American Grasslands biome. All different kinds of grassland, three basic kinds of grassland: tall grass prairie, mixed grass prairie, and short grass prairie. But again, so we're talking just about the tall grass prairie. Iowa sits right in the heart of it right there. And Iowa had more acres of tall grass prairie than any other state. Now, other states had more prairie than us, but it wasn't tall grass prairie. So obviously, some of these other states out here would have had more total prairie. But in terms of tall grass prairie, which again is the type of prairie that we have in Iowa and the type that has the most productivity, we were right in the heart of it. The amount of acreage, the percentage, we had the most, 30 million acres, but we also have the highest percentage in terms of how much prairie was present in our state. We looked at the size of the state and what the percentage of prairie in each state was. Now, unfortunately, Iowa was not on the ball when we decided what our nickname should be, and Illinois grabbed the nickname the Prairie State. So Illinois is the Prairie State, not Iowa. Iowa's the Hawkeye State. So, okay, we can live with that. But we had 85% of our state was made up of tall grass prairie. Illinois was only about 60%. So, really, I think, appreciate and be proud of the fact that we really are the Prairie State, not Illinois, but we really are when it comes right down to it. This is a map that shows how much prairie, basically all this beige color in through here, This is a map that shows how much prairie, or where prairie was in Iowa, roughly calculated by the land surveyors. Now you probably know when Iowa was being settled, from about 1832 to 1856 or so, there were land surveyors, employed by the government of course, to come out and lay out all of these townships and sections. All of these gravel roads that we have, of course, that make a grid out on our landscapes. Those are all are sections, and then sections are grouped into townships. And so when they were doing that, they were required to make notes on what the landscape looked like. And just really broad categories. You can't see all of these categories over here because they're too small, of course, but we can lump them into really 4 basic kinds of observations. Prairie, savanna, forest, or wetlands. And that's basically what's mapped up here. Again, the prairie is all of this color we see through here. The dark green is what they recognize as forest. This kind of color in through, this aqua color, is savanna. And if you can see any blue, that's a wetland. They're usually too small, though, and so they won't show up on this map. But we can look at what the totals were for those 4 categories in terms of the amount of acreage. And you can see here, when we add up, they sometimes use the term meadow, or they use the term prairie. We're going to say both of those meant prairie. These were the names they used, we think meant savanna. These are the names we think meant forest. So these are the names, the terms that those land surveyors used. If we look at the prairie and savanna, both combined, the numbers of acres and then the percentage is right at 86%. So that agrees with other work that's been done to, again, try to determine how much of Iowa was prairie. We can also look at that in terms of the soil. And so this little table down here uses soil as a way to define what the native vegetation was. It turns out that soil scientists, of course, have mapped all the soils of Iowa. And each soil is described as being formed under a certain type of vegetation, because vegetation is one of the most important factors. There's 5 important factors, but vegetation, what's growing on the landscape, is one of the most important things that determines what that soil is going to be. There's such a tight connection between vegetation and soil. So all of the soils that are called prairie soils, if you add up all of them, and the ones that are called savanna soils, you come up with 88%. So that's not very far off from 86%. So both of these are independently trying to come up with a measure, again, of how much prairie we had. Again, 85 to 86%, again, is more than any other state.
Tom?
Yes?
Question over here. As we look at the map, you see southeast Iowa and eastern Iowa, would be the forested areas along the waterways.
Right.
Aside from the areas that are marked forest along the waterways, do we assume prairie went right up to waterways like in northwest Iowa?
In northwest Iowa, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but yes, in the western third of Iowa, where we are now, the rivers would have pretty much had prairie right up to them. There might have been a few trees up in places, of course, but you're exactly right. There's a big difference. The continental divide, not continental, the Iowa divide, right through here is an important distinction. I'm going to show you a map a little bit later on that points that out.
So what we see in the Raccoon River Valley would look different than today, wouldn't have as many trees.
Yes, at least up in this part.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Once you get down here, maybe not quite so much. All of these, yeah, you can see all of these river valleys kind of lined up here with all that green. The green is the forest that occurs in the river valleys. That's not a surprise to anybody, right? And that does make eastern Iowa, and especially southeast Iowa, much more of a landscape. The original landscape would have been much more of a mosaic of prairie and savanna and forest, all intermingling together. If there's one wish I've always wished I could do, it's possible, of course, but I wish I could go back in time. because I want so much to see, again, what our state looked like, you know, say 1820 or so, in its native condition. It would have been so amazing, so fantastic. Right now, of course, we just see little pieces of what that landscape was like. But we have to be happy for what we have. So, this is an example again of the three main kinds of vegetation that the land surveyors could map: prairie, wetlands, and forests. These are all really good examples in Iowa of each of those kinds of vegetation. So all is not lost. We know we have a very agricultural state, and it had to be that way because of our rich soils, but we can be happy and proud of the fact that we do have lots of really great state preserves around the state that protect places like this. But we're going to talk about prairie. So I'm going to keep this, really simple, a basic level as I can, but I think it is useful, I think, to think about, well, out there we see prairie. How many kinds of prairie are there? Is the prairie all the same? And the answer to that is no. That's one thing I want you to really understand well. Our important take-home message is a prairie is not